Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about how to design research methodology for thesis and project. Research methodology is very important in research, and we must understand how to come up with the right kind of research methodology. What things need to be considered, and how can you prepare yourself for that? A very interesting topic, and I'm sure you will learn a lot from this session because we have an expert with us in today's this session. So stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Kalwas for arranging such enlightenment sessions for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Kalwas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their recommendations, experiences, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn new things and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person as guest. She is well-known personality and has a wonderful experience. We always see her while contributing to the world and field on different platforms. Moreover, she is always so kind that she always ready to share her knowledge on different platforms. So let me introduce her formally. She has done her PhD in finance from the University of Karachi in 2018. She has 9 years of experience in teaching, research, consultancy in the area of management sciences. Moreover, she has already worked as an assistant professor at Hamdard University, Karachi and the University of Karachi. In addition to that, she has published 15 research articles in HEC recognized journals, national and international journals, including two book chapters in renowned international publishers. Moreover, she is performing as an external reviewer of several national and international journals. Moreover, she has also HEC approved supervisor in the field of management sciences and business administration for the next 3 years. Last but not the least, she is a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Kiran JAMEEL. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Sawan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Heather, for your comment. And thank you for the nice introduction. Let me introduce or let me enhance my introduction as well. Currently, I am an assistant professor at College of Business and Management, Institute of Business Management, and serving here as an assistant professor and head in the PhD coordinator as well for 1.5 years. So,
Wonderful.
thank you so much again for your wonderful introduction, and thank you again. And it's my great pleasure to join your prestigious platform to address the scholars and as well as the students as well. So, definitely, I'll. It's a two-way process again. Again, that's the learning for me as well for this platform and the student as well. So,
Yeah,
I'll
thank
just
you.
just
And
start.
it's
Thank you.
really pleasure to have you. And we have seen you on different platform, and you are a wonderful expert. And today we are looking forward for so many wonderful new concepts to learn from you, and people are watching you from around the globe. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, the today's topic is research design for thesis and projects. Again, that's my wonderful, my very energetic topic we have for me. But before starting the research design, I'm come up with the basic concept of the research and why we from where to start a research. That's again keep it simple, keep this session simple, and we are starting from where from scratch and from where to start the research. Most of the students I experiencing these days, they are not just select the topic and start doing research, but it's not the research actually. They are just replicate their present study or just to say present their thesis. It's not like that. When we're talking about the research for PhD level or for the postgrad level, MPhil or PhD, it's something different. You are going to coach or research the new dilemma, maybe the advancement or extension of the existing theory, maybe, or just provide the solution for the industrial problem, just applied research. So first, I'm going to address the first recent scholars who are wants to join, who wants to doing the research for their thesis or their dissertations, just from where to start their research. Maybe they're expert of their respective fields, but again the research is different thing. You have to know the whole research process before starting your dissertation or thesis. You have to have some basics knowledge, or you have some draft, you know, the basic pattern for writing the research, maybe the research problem, or you are addressing the any of the research issue. So from where to start? Again, for research, you have some research gap. Again, without research finding out any of the problem or any of the issue, how can you start the research? So this basically coming up with the literature you are going through throughout the your area, respect your respective area. That's why your research start from the starting the literature review, or just read out the literature review. Most of the student starting the literature review, that's the second chapter, or just four. And like, again, when you come up with the thesis or with the dissertation, start with the read out the thoroughly the literature review, relevant literature, and then come up with the find out some research gap. When in your research gap, you find out some basics criterias. Either you find out the variables to address in your dissertation or thesis to incorporate, and then you come up with the any of the issue or problem that cannot be addressed till date, so you can proceed accordingly. So when you're talking about any of the research issue or any of the research problems, you come up with the again find out the gap. But again, when you find out any of the research problem or find out the problem solutions, you come up with the again the ultimate design to resolve the problem. Again, there is a need to solve the problem. Again, for the solution of to find out the solution of the problem, you need the ways, you need the way how to resolve that problem, so you can plan accordingly, or that's the planning required the research design. Okay, so before come up with the research design, just start from the scratch. Just we have some issue, researchable issue or problem, to find out the solution. Then when you come up with the solution or with the find out the research problem solutions, we know the what's the problem here. We found the gap, or when you're starting the accurate gap for your research. So remember two things. First, the gap at the PhD level, it's just quite sufficient to justify your degree. Again, before if you not justify your the research gap is too small and too narrow and too specific, how can you justify your research is just incorporate or just contribute in the society? So again, for your research gap is sufficient or your issue is sufficient to address the societal issue. Similarly, if you're talking about if you're talking about any of the issue, find out the gap first. The gap, research gap, the finding the criteria for finding out the research gap is divided again the three main dimensional. The first, finding out the research gap on the basis of theoretical justification, right? That is called the theoretical gap, right? The second one is the methodological gap. Maybe the past researchers had incorporated the research on the basis of while applying any of the obsolete, or we can say the traditional tool for statistics. Now you can extend the tool, or you can apply the latest or advanced tool for research. That's called the methodological gap. Or maybe the time horizon, obviously, or the contextual gap. Maybe they are studies specific for different area, just constant with the specific time limit. You can enhance the data timeline and just you add the more demographics in it. So There's the three main dimensions you can find out the research gap. So any of the thesis student, PhD students, and MPhil student who wants to find out the research gap, so I'm advising that these are the three dimensional. First, the theoretical gap. The second is methodological gap, and third is your contextual gap. Right. So when you're drafting accordingly your research gap, definitely it's sum up with the justifiable gap, research gap you can address in your research. Once you can find that these are the gaps, obviously these three dimensions cannot be addressed without uh, thoroughly read out the literature. Obviously, how can we find out the three dimensions? Obviously, with the help of the literature. So, literature is again the integral part for for starting any of the thesis or research. Before it, we cannot see that it's the justifiable. Okay, so that's the simple thing we find out that come up with the gap, and again on the basis of gap we can move further to have some research objectives. Again, on the basis of these three dimensional contributional gap, research gap, we are come up with our study objective. Or again, our study objective is based on the contextual and that these three dimensional gaps. Once we find out the gaps we have, we find out the objectives. We can easily set our objectives, come up with the research questions that are we are going to address in our research or thesis, then come up with a hypothesis. So when we are come up with the hypothesis again is based on the agar these are the three connected with your objectives and research question. So when you are starting your thesis, must remember these are the aligned contextual foundations. Means your gap is aligned with your objective is aligned with your research gap, and your research gap is research objective is aligned with your research question, and so on. Your hypothesis again addressed or aligned with your question and your objectives. So these are the some key points which I personally feel while reviewing the thesis of the undergrad level or the postgrad level. The alignment is missed on the basis of that keep hypothesis, sorry, objective is different, the theme is different, but they are testing the different hypothesis. They cannot usually tested the question and hypothesis, so there is a mislinkage between them. So I'm just advising that you are just for any of addressing the thesis, just align your draft first. Without your alignment, it's very difficult for the any of the early stage researcher to find out your results findings, your desires findings actually. So again, when you are come up with any of the hypothesis, testing any of the hypothesis, or you develop some framework. Sorry, my research design is basically is come up when you have some questions in your mind or some clarity in mind. Your research design is come up after you have clear understanding in your mind about what to do, how to do, and what are the ways you can do it for your to find out the results finding of your study. So before it, research design, these are some key elements you have to clear in your mind: your research problem, your research gap, on the basis of three foundations, your research gap, your your objective, your research question, on the basis of your research question, your hypothesis which you are tested in your research. Then how to come up solution for this, for the solution for this paradigms or we have. Now we can start how can we plan, yeah, how can we achieve this uh, to solve or to resolve this problem, and how can we achieve or how can we analysis for the particular problem through the time. So that's a research design. How can we resolve this particular problem, and how can we set the objective. Obviously we have some research objective to watch or to research or to analyze on the basis of some research findings. So again, we designed some research for research design. We formulate some research design to address our research. So that's that's the brief introduction, or we can say the brief outline before this chapter, or before this key component, research design. Now come up with these. We have started the research design. First we have, now, the main component, the selection of research design. Again, that, as we have already described, research design are the plan or procedure for research that span the decision. What are the main assumptions we have for, in case of data? Maybe our problem or our issue is related to the solution is from the primary in nature, maybe in the secondary in nature, or maybe there qualitative research is required in particular topic, or maybe the quantitative, and then maybe the mixed quant methods is applied. Mixed qualitative and quantitative methods we have is find out, start the research from the survey, like qualitative in manner, and then quant, just for analysis purpose we convert our call to con and then come up with the results, right? That's a process we are using the research design for of the purpose. So again, the plan involves, say, again, this plan, the research design again is an plan in that process, and we are using to according to the criteria, according to the problem, according to the issue we have. Now again, it's an up to the topic, relevant to the topic, which design is should be used in this particular topic. Again, that is the criteria for selection, which design is appropriate for this particular study. Some designs or some study automatically reflect or instruct the researcher to use, like there's some marketing type research. The market research require the survey based mostly, so they instruct their researcher to or their researcher to scholars for to to basically analyze the survey based research, or they inculcate the second type of the investor, like there is a determinant difference between economic determinants, or there's an impact of economic determinants on economic development or any of the country, on any of the economy or the firm performance. So these type of data depicted that or instruct the researcher to use the secondary type data. So again, which design is used is definitely the issue, your problem, your gap is definitely guide you, the researcher, to address the issue. Again there is some assumptions relevant to their, attached to their topic, right? Means when I'm already mentioned here, the marketing research, market surveys required, most of the topics, market surveys required when we're talking about the brand perceptions, brand, your consumer behavior, any of the product, yeah, the brand image for any of the newly product, existing product. So yeah, by the failure of that particular product, for example, there are surveys required. So they basically they instruct, yeah, they inform the guys, yeah, you are the researcher, and that's the mention that we have some market research required that particular topic. So you require the market survey, you require the employee perception, yeah, maybe their retention issue in any of the firm. So retention issue addressed by the, maybe their particular firm, your particular industry. So their interviews is required, the focal person interviews required, and face-to-face interviews required. So again, some studies basically guide the researcher uh, to analyze the impact, to find out the research design, which research design is appropriate for that particular problem. So maybe the nature, the type of the problem, the type of the issue, and they basically guide the researcher or the audience. Again, the experience of the researcher guide the researcher the how what are the basic tool they can use to address their research design. So basically, selection of a research design is based on, first, keep it brief. First, they can easily plan, they guide the process, guide the researcher accordingly to the type of a nature of the analysis or the issue, give which type of problem, we have, and wow, with the solutions we come, how can we come up with the solution through the technical issues, maybe the survey, maybe the secondary data is required in a particular study, or maybe the mixed method is appropriate for the study, right? So that's the selection criteria we can use for addressing any of the research design. Now, again, as we have already mentioned, these are the three types of research design used in the research. That's quantitative, again, qualitative, and mixed method. What is the quant explain actually? The experimental designs. Okay, before starting these three dimensions or three designs, I come up with the theoretical aspects. In earlier my earlier research gap, I found out that there's a theoretical theoretical contribution. How can we come up with the theory? Most of the researchers I've already mentioned, or I have already observed, that there's a the linkages between theory and the research framework is missed. Most of the researchers avoid the linkages between, means that there is some intervening theories that are linked with the research framework or research model, but they cannot address properly. If if the intervening theory are appropriate and linked with the hypothesis for development or any of the hypothesis, definitely it's contribute towards the selection of the research design. So if your theory is connected with the or guide with the quant or call and any of the mixed method, then definitely it's appropriate for any of the researcher to find out the theoretical gap. Again, that's the philosophical side. Again that's a research design session, but the the philosophies of research is an again involved, is again a hot topic, is again is an very crucial topic for the researchers. Sometimes researchers very but I find that there's a lacking behind their philosophy side, which philosophy is appropriate or we can use through in that particular research design. There again, that's the positivism, post positivism, and the pragmatism. Again, there's some basis. On the basis of this, the philosophies, any of the hypothesis can be developed. Either there's an empirical studies, then so on, then tested the any of the hypothesis. So again, when we are come up with any of the research model, just first link with the theory, just interpreting theory that are connected or that explain basically the relationship between your variables. Either again there any of the model definitely can be supported by the theory. So just define your theory, which theory is appropriate for your research model, and which are the behavior, or we can that what type of relationship your theory and your framework suggest you. Definitely on the basis of this, hypothesis can be developed and so on. So when you come up with the quantitative style, again that's experimental, and such as surveys methods we have, any of the secondary type data we have, you are come up with the analysis, you are examining the or check the impact of the any of the key determinants of the monetary policy, maybe your firm performance or any of the stock market performance. You can use the quantitative data in it. And then we are checking the retention ratio in any of the firm performance, any of the firm, any of the industry, or you are checking the brand perception, you are checking the adaptability of any of the new product. You can use the quantitative data. And the quantitative data, there's a clear understanding that the data is in quantitative in nature, and you can use the different tools to analysis the data and come up with the quantitative form. Definitely is quite clear, but the students are very much misunderstanding about the qualitative data. How can we come up with the qualitative data? So the main theme of the qualitative data, or the main starting of the main purpose for doing the qualitative research, is to, what I personally believe, that's some theory that support your model, means that there's grounded theory. So again, there's again different methods for starting the grounded theory that suggest that suggests for the future researcher or scholar regarding that particular theory. But the grounded theory, it's not easy to perform. Obviously there's some criteria, these are the some parameters that definitely guide. There is actually the process. The grounding theory is a process which you can find out the research from deductive to deductive, and then on the basis of your grounded theory you are come up with the support the existing theory maybe, or just extension of the theory. Similarly, when you are come up with a case study in nature, case study maybe your support or you guide your any of the industrial problem, or you guide your particular industry regarding the solution of that particular problem or in nature. So when you address the case study focus means the like Henry Fuel, we have some starting the 14 principle of Henry Fuel. These are the basically consist of or the experimental theory. So when we have come up with the experimental theory type things, and when we have come up with any of the case studies that is relevant to the particular industry and that support the solution of that particular industry. So definitely the case study is the type of qualitative in nature which describe the basics, the behavior of that particular particular firms. The employee of that particular firm means all the stakeholders of that particular industry. So basically the narrative type research required the qualitative study. Or when we are talking about the softwares we are using, as we have quant in nature, so we have different EViews, we have SPSS, we have Stata, or lots of analytical software we have. But when we're qualitative, the qualitative may even the and Vivo isn't very segment is line is these days, or these are successful tool these days and come up with the narrations. So qualitative again, it's a technical one. Phenomenology is impressed by the yeah, based on the qualitative in nature. Anthropographics research is based on again the grounded theory is very well explained already, and grounded theory is basically the sum up of the results of the qualitative research. So any of the theory, any of the extension of theory is required. You are quite have informative regarding any of the particular theory. You are in a position to challenge the previous author or philosopher. Now you come up with the grounded theory. You cannot justify it or just argue with the theory without an grounded theory. If you want to extend any of the contextual theoretical gap or contribute in a contextual gap, just come up with the grounded theory. You cannot argue with the philosopher on without basis of the grounded theory. So these are qualitative in nature. You for challenging the you are addressing the grounded theory, you are taking the feedback or taking the interviews of this of any of the respondent, or just is make the scripts scripts for interview scripts or sample scripts, and then come up with the upload or just analysis that particular scripts, and then with the NVivo software, and then come up with the results. Similarly, when we are going being in research, mixed method is attractive to me regarding my research problem. And I being a researcher, I found out that my study is based on the mixed method, and being an experience of my research, I found out that my that's on my issue is addressed through the mixed method. So again, there's a justification for use the mixed method. You are using the cont and call with the in the same scenario. On that basis of cont and call, you are making the mixture of that, and on the basis of cont and cont, you are making the result analysis. Again, that's a differential one, that's a different one. But again, if you have sufficient knowledge about the content call and your full expertise of it, you can definitely make it possible to use the yeah, taken benefit of the mixed method opportunity. Again, sequential method we have, concurrent variance, transformative we have. So again, how we come qualitative in mixed method, first we have to qualitative data we have to convert in cont. because with again the mixed method we have, but call data should be converted into quantitative in form. Then we are run the software to analysis the data. So that is a sufficient knowledge or requirement you have, either which method is appropriate for your research design, and on the basis of your method you can definitely support your answer. And now, the early researcher, when I personally experience in my students as well, and when I examine the thesis of students, most of the students trying to make the harder of their study. They usually present the model that is complex in nature. Why they are complexing this framework? Why? Because they think that how the way they are complex their model, the research is appropriate and there's getting the more chance for publications. Again, when your complex made your framework or model complex, it's very difficult for you to even to analyze and to sum up with the model. Some of the students cannot realize that the use of mixed method, but they can definitely say that, okay, I'm using the mixed method in my study. Why? Because what's the question? How either the study, your past literature guide you to use the mixed method? No, that's a question mark. How can you say that, okay, you are using the mixed method? If you think that, okay, that's a contribution, research contribution, so sorry, it's not a research contribution. Again, I've already mentioned that your research experience, your issue or your type of study or the past literature guide you which type of research design is using. But again, if you're using the inappropriate method, or definitely the main essence or the main taste of your research can be, there is a chances can be, can be converted. So if you can succeed in your research model, and that can do, you can adopt your model can be successful and get easily published. So definitely you make designer appropriate research design that is based on the realistic. First, that's to be realistic, testable, realistic, and then achievable. You cannot when we're talking about the testable, again the research design is testable, means that if your model is connected with your the basis of theory. Positivism we have, that's an empirical study connected with the your empirical study connected with the theory. So on the basis of theory you can make the hypothesis. That's a positivism we have. So first, when you are preparing your design your research, first make sure how much time you how can you design your research, what are the research paradigms, yeah, how research your research paradigm guide you towards the research design. And seriously keep keen on create your basic interest regarding your particular area of expertise. Without your area of expertise or your knowledge, or we can say that the area of interest, you cannot succeed in a particular industry. Again, that's the research. No, it's very interesting topic, it's very interesting activity, we can say that's very interesting task, you can do it. But again, make it interested while choosing your area of interest, your main area, your core area, and then do it your again. Without, if you are not choosing your particular area, you are just replicate any of the particular person or your supervisor, or we can say that that's your mentor. So maybe there is a not interest in your particular field, so definitely there's a chances you can lose your hope, or do you can know basically the information, your basic information, so that it's very difficult for them to uh, address your particular issue. So that's my two cent, maybe that's my two cent for any of the early age researcher, to keep on interest, make your develop your interest in that particular field. Because if you're not preparing your creating the interest into your particular research field, it's very difficult to again you, it's and not a simple, yeah, undergrad type degree program. That's not a semester type degree program. It's an again 30 hours credit, or we can the research thesis requirements we have, or we can say that's the journey. PhD is a journey, that's the destination, that's not a simple degree. It's a journey, it's a destination. So keep uh, clear your path, keep clean your basic concepts what you want to do, or just clear in your mind your all the research in your finger points, and then make the research design and so on. If you are not clear even in your idea what to do and how to do it, it's very difficult for you to address the problem. So that's my simple guide for all of the early researcher. And then definitely the forum is open for the QA session from the Dr. Haider Shah, and definitely we'll come up with the thing. So that's the three free the few my contribution for any of the research scholar to perform accordingly, and then to start their research journey in the research. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Heather, Dr. Heather.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kiran. Oh, what a lovely session it was. You kept it very brief, simple, but at the same time, it was very complex because you were explaining things which are very complex, but you made it very easy for our audience. And I love the way you started it from the scratch. You talked about the problem statement, the research gap, and three particular research gap that the study should be filling these kind of three gaps. Only then you can make the contribution. And very nicely you have mentioned the research question and objectives that they should be aligned. And I have seen the students mostly they commit the same mistake that they do not align the research question objective with the problem, and then particularly the hypothesis and methodology. So what happens is they collect data from the wrong paper, they select the wrong questionnaire. Sometimes their question and objective is not in line, and they are doing something different work. And particularly in PhD, we say that if you don't have the theoretical contribution, so we cannot award you a PhD degree. So that's very important. You must have, fill the theoretical gap. And I really enjoyed that you first made it very clear by setting the ground for the research methodology, because until unless we have the right kind of research problem gap, the research question and objective, we cannot move towards the methodology because it is very much interrelated and interconnected. And very nicely you have connected the hypothesis regarding the research methodology. And I just loved your simple the slides which were the research design first and then the three types. Most of the question you just address in these three slides, because they usually ask that which method is fine, which one we should select, why qualitative, why quantitative, why not mixed, and pros and cons, and so many things. That's why I just mentioned that you kept it very simple, but at the same time, you explained in a way that you answered so many interrelated questions to that. But still, Dr. Kiran, we have certain questions for you, and that needs your clarification and your recommendation with that. So, should we start with the first question, please?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Please
Okay.
proceed.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. The first question they want to ask that Dr. Kiran, thank you very much for such an elaborative session, and you explained very well. Please tell us how to identify the poor research methodology. As an examiner, what do you recommend as the poor research methodology? Yes, please.
For the research scholar and for the supervisor or external you are talking about.
This question is posed by the student, MS student. Yes, please.
The poor research policy, there again, there is again, sometimes they are advised by their fellows, their mentors maybe, use the mixed method. Sometimes I examine I realized that most of the scholars using the mixed method without any of the need, without any of the reasonable justification. They are using the mixed method because they think that that's the methodological gap. So, if, again, I've mentioned earlier that the research, your research issue or your research gap guides you towards the research design. If it's guide you to use the simple SAM, so a simple primary type data is required. Yes, survey method is required, or interviews is required. So why are you come up with the mixed method? Or the problem or your issue is easily solved through the quantitative method. So why are you using the mix? Why are you come up with the interview methods? So again, be restricted your specific problem, thoroughly read out the literature that definitely guides you. But again, the first step we have, they are using the advanced technique without any of the need, right? The second thing is that they are incorporating many variables without any of the need. Means that there are some replication of the variable, the meaning of the variable is the same. They are using for enhancing, yeah, increasing the number of variables, they are putting the 16 or 17. Even I've found out the model recently, they are based on the 17 variables. So so where there are CO2 emissions we have, the ecological footprint we have. So when we come up with the ecological footprint, there is no need to find out the CO2 emission gap, obviously. So there's some replication of variables we have. Adding the third point, the student mostly do mistakenly, they're adding the media, wrongly adding the mediation and moderating variables. So these are the problems we have. And the third thing I observe mostly, they are using in the secondary data mostly, they are using the limited time frame. So, and they are reluctant to use the panel data when I come up with any of the quantitative data form. They are actually reluctant to use the panel data. Data availability nahi hai, there is a limitation in the data. No, you have to being a researcher. The sky is a limit. Simple. So these are the methodological gap they are using. The fourth, I usually experience that there's a technological era. Most of the scholars are very well aware or very well perfect, can easily use a perfect use of the technology like a software. They are very well uh, cop up with the PLS Smart and Strata and R software. They are very well known. How can you use their Mendeley for the references? They can use easily. So there's a technological generation. Yeah, they are very much well. But when they are stuck, the research model, the research framework, how to find the gap, if which model is appropriate, if which techniques is appropriate for that particular model. That's the basically the poor. But I found that there's an error in their methodological gaps we have.
Yeah, very nice. And you have mentioned very important points. Most of the time, students they commit that kind of mistakes. Very nicely, you have mentioned. It's about the need of the study or need of the methodology, which methodology they are going to opt. It's not their wish. It's according to the requirement of the study. And yes, again, the alignment of all the things with the framework, and unnecessarily they just add the moderator and mediation without any justification. And we usually say that in research, whatever we do, we must have a justification for that, and that should be logical, because whatever you are
Yes.
doing is the requirement of the study. It's not the researcher choice or wish, but it is the requirement of the study. Thank you for such an elaborative answer. Now, another very interesting question, and this is one is by master student. They want to ask that, Dr. Kiran, please guide us. How do you see collecting data from social media platform? Is it justifiable? Yes, please.
Okay, the social media platforms accordingly, when we are talking about the social media platforms, so it's again that's the interest for when we are collecting data through the Google form. So most of the when I experience the 16 and 65% chances that they are really fill out your form without thoroughly read out. Just simply tick on them. But again, when you're talking about any of there's some uh, perception as well. Means if when you're when you are talking about the social media, so if there is any of the comment, yeah, any of the research feedback is obviously is very bad feedback in about your any of the product, any of the your program as well. So maybe that's impact on the another, yeah, potential respondent as well. So your feedback, your existing respondent feedback can put impact, maybe strong impact, maybe negatively or maybe positive impact on your potential respondent. So that's the basically different criterias for adopting the social media for finding out the research, for finding out the research type data. It's difficult, it's again difficult. There's a huge chances for error as well, right? If I'm talking about any of the product perception, like if just take it simple, you are going to buy any of the product on Daraz, so you choose them and then you're similarly you keep it down and just check the comments, your review session, come up with a review session. And there any of the customer they found they experience a very bad experience, maybe the delivery due to delivery late delivery via delivery boy that's not keep on time, or maybe the product is broken. What? So if you see out the comments, so your buying decision is based on it. Understand, your buying decision is based on the comments your quality customers given to you. Similarly, if your respondents is find out and you have put in any of the comment against your, yeah, in negative perception about your research, so definitely put the being a respondent and put the feedback of me, your potential respondent. So again, that's a difficult one, or we'll definitely try the better way to address the social media for collecting the data.
Very nice, very nice. Really, Dr. Kiran, I'm enjoying the way you are giving answer, and that's just because you have a wonderful command on this topic, and that's why we have requested you to answer. And now the last question, which is very important, and this has been requested by so many researchers. That please, which is the best research methodology book for the beginner? What kind of books or what kind of author's book do you recommend for the beginners particularly? Yes, please.
Okay, just research designs and problems. Macro Creswell. I'll design it well. मैं share कर देती हूँ. Let me share it again. Give me a few minutes. I'll share the name. Please wait.
Dr. Kiran, you can send us later on. We will add in the description list of this video so that the audience who will
Now we have the research design. Thus, we have the research design, qualitative, quant, and mixed method approaches. That is
wow,
John W. Creswell.
wonderful, wonderful, and I
John
think a
W.
very popular one.
Creswell. Yes,
Yes.
it's a latest edition also available. I think its latest edition come up with the 2019. John Creswell, research
Yes.
design. So any of
Yeah.
just read it out. And the second book I recommend as well, the philosophy. You must read out the research philosophy course as well. Your research philosophy topics. So these are the some research philosophies we have. So
Mm.
if you come up with any of the philosophy, then theories, and then definitely it's definitely these are the main component and foundation component that support to designer research.
Wow, very nice. And thank you once again, Dr. Kiran, for your wonderful session, explanation, and the way you just conducted this session was so great. You kept it very simple. I love this idea. And again, you explained everything, the way that you connected the different dots right from the chapter one, chapter two, and chapter three. You aligned everything, and now you have mentioned a very nice books as well, a very nice recommendation. And I hope the people who are watching and the people who will be watching in the future, they will get a lot of benefit out of this session. Dr. Kiran, at the end of the session, we ask our each guest about their message to the world. So, what is your message to the world as a teacher, author, speaker, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
Okay. Be realistic first, be enthusiastic again, and just passionate against your destination, then definitely you will achieve it. And the policy things are going, but just we can say that seek the way you are seeking for. So just come up with your uh, realistic based, come up with your uh, honesty required for the research as well, and keep it positive thinking and promote your positive thinking. Yes, definitely will, you will grow it accordingly, and just be realistic with yourself. That's the message from my side.
Wow, very nice. You have given multiple messages, which is very nice, which is very interconnected. And I think if people follow these kind of values, it will be more beneficial for them, not to
Yes,
only
yes. Be
excel
positive.
academically.
Be positive in any of the situation. Be positive any of the situation. When I experience lot of the thing, when there is scholars is basically ending up their thesis or dissertations. There's a lot of negativity feeling they have, and they are very much disappointed. But be positive. Keep on, just keep on trying and just looking for your destination.
Yes.
Inshallah, you will
Yeah,
be
inshallah.
successful.
Yeah, I believe that's the wonderful thing, that if you remain positive, the things will work in your way, and definitely your hard work will pay back. This is what the
That's
general principles are. And there's a popular quotation: "Nothing goes unpaid." My father used to say that, and I believe that the people who are positive and working hard, they will be definitely rewarded for that. So really, so wonderful, Dr. Kiran. To the audience, please do follow our distinguished guest speaker through her research work, and you can email her for future learning and guidance. She is very generous and always ready to help the people. Moreover, powerful explanation and wonderful content, which the great speaker has already elaborated, will help you to learn and develop your understanding regarding the research methodology. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you once again, Dr. Kiran Jameel. And I would
Thank you
like,
so much. Thank you,
yeah,
Dr. Heather, for your time, and talk to your audience by then. You'll catch me according to my profile in your description link. Definitely, Dr. Heather, share my email address as well.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional questions about information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through her email or social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our sessions. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. And next session, take care of yourself. Bye bye.